tracked every micro win for a month.
Hello. We are back with the third experiment of the year. For this month, we are tracking micro wins, every single micro win. What is a micro win? I'm glad you asked. Synchronicities, as in I wake up in the morning and I think, I really want something sweet to eat. And a few hours later, my cousin/roommate comes home with cupcakes. That's a synchronicity. The second category is anything that feels lucky. So finding cash on the ground, a meeting getting canceled, my bus being as delayed as I am late, if you know what I mean. So anything that feels lucky. The third category is any client or friend wins. So if I tell you about a grant and you apply and win it, so did I. And I don't mean that it's my money as well. I just mean I'm really happy that I could facilitate a win for you, and thus it's a win for me. And then the fourth category is just accomplishments. And if I'm thinking of it on the scale of a micro win, that could be like I read 2 chapters of this book today, which is in Spanish, very much a win. So those are my 4 categories/criteria for what counts as a micro win. The crux of this experiment, the foundational question is, does celebrating small things generate more and bigger things to celebrate? Now, keep in mind, the whole point of the energetic experiment series is to master getting more of what I want in a playful way. Okay. So energetically, I think that this experiment is going to at least temporarily rewire my brain to be seeking all the ways that I'm succeeding. For that reason, I predict that I'm going to have more wins per day towards the end of this experiment than I do in the beginning. And that's simply because I don't think you can do something like this without developing the mindset that everything is a miracle. Have you heard that before? Either everything's a miracle or nothing is. I think that through doing this process, I will encourage myself to start viewing many, many things as miracles rather than just mundane things that are happening. So the process for this particular experiment is 4-ish steps. The first is that I'm going to use my phone notes app to record and document the wins in the moment. Secondly, at the end of each day, I'm going to transfer all the notes app wins onto physical flashcards. Third, still at the end of the day, I'm going to read those wins aloud so I can really, bask in them. And then fourth, once per week, I'm going to just keep count of how many I had that week so that I can track the delta, I can track the change. And remember, if you want the process document for this experiment or any of the previous ones, you can sign up at the link below and you'll get an email with all of the documents for the past and current experiments.
Hi, let's recap how this month and how this experiment went. So, first things first, I failed. Now, in terms of the results that I was looking for and the hypothesis, I think that I did actually accomplish that, but by my own personal standards, I absolutely tanked this experiment. And I feel okay about this. It's not my favorite thing. I would have preferred to come in differently, obviously, but I'm holding this lesson. I'm holding kind of the 2 things. My maybe pragmatic brain is like, I didn't do the thing that I laid out exactly how I laid it out, but the other part of me is like, that's what an experiment is. Iteration is inherent to experimentation, and I felt that this month, or I'm choosing, let's be clear about that. I'm choosing to view this month as a reminder, as an embodiment of that. Iteration is not inherently failure. It's literally just changing and accommodating based on what you have the capacity for or what does and does not work for you. Let's get into our 5 questions. The first is, what changed about the process? There are, I think, several reasons why it just didn't work the way that I thought it would, or I didn't get myself to do the process in the way that I originally wrote it. I'm going to cut to me discussing my thoughts on that. Hello, you're going on a walk with me today. I've not been doing this assignment very well at all. I have yet to write a single thing on a flashcard, not one thing on a flashcard. I have been pretty consistently typing it out, but I have missed a few days, mostly due to I'm not near my phone enough to take notes on my phone. And I think mostly because this is such a simple experiment that it's really easy for me to forget to do it. So what has happened more often than not is that it'll be nighttime and I get in bed and I go, oh crap, my micro wins. And so then I write them all out. So I'm still doing that part of the process where I'm writing them out and speaking them aloud each night, but I have not been writing them down in time. The other thing of note is that I had a really hard start to the month. And so I think that is also impacting my relationship to this experiment. And one other thing that I thought of is that this actually didn't have, oh my God, have you been this slow the whole time? This experiment doesn't have a morning component to it. And I think that is contributing a lot to why I have struggled to do it properly, because I do think that I am the most malleable, the most available for something like this in the morning. I also like having direction, that throughout the day, I just really rely on whatever I did in the morning as the intention. So when that doesn't happen, things fall off. So what did end up happening, or how I decided to change the process, was kind of accepting that either what I had the capacity for or just what I was willing to do was to write out all the wins just at the end of the day and kind of almost like data scrape my day internally and then write them all in the journal and then read that aloud. So that ended up being the final process. No flashcards were used. And to be honest, the reading aloud happened sometime. I'll also say part of the reason that I was so attached to using the flashcards is because I had planned a thumbnail. I had planned the thumbnail for this video around that. And so when that kept slipping through my fingers, and then I realized, I had a conversation with me and I was like, I'm not gonna write all this stuff down on flashcards. I just came to the realization that I was gonna have to do a different thumbnail. Okay, what was the hardest part of this experiment? Frankly, remembering to do it. Yeah, as I mentioned in that clip, I think it not being tied to the morning really put it at a disadvantage. And specifically because I think it is too subtle of a practice. I actually think that it's possible that this particular experiment was too subtle or too small because I already have a gratitude practice. Trying to change my gratitude practice without having like a big to-do about it, which again could have been the flashcards, I don't know, just made it so that I didn't ever remember that I was supposed to be doing an updated version of gratitude. That's something that I'm going to think about because some of the other experiments are similarly subtle. And so I might need to revamp those when the time comes, when I pull them out of the jar. What was the most surprising part of this experiment? I'm going to be honest with you. It was surprising to me that I still got the external outcomes, the external results that I had initially intended. So if the hypothesis or the central question was, does celebrating small things lead to more and bigger things to celebrate? Yes. Yeah, it does. I received a lot of tiny things. I want to share with you some of my favorite wins. Just 3 of them. The first is that I found my blue hat. It's been missing for months and I have looked like everywhere for it. And then I remember one day just really longing for it as I was going on a walk. And then all of a sudden there it was. And I know I had looked in that area before, but I didn't see it at the time. And so it did feel very specific to this experiment that I would be able to find my blue hat. And another win that I liked was I was in Joann Fabrics with my sister and her daughter. And we were just walking around. My sister wanted to get some decoration thingies. A lady, or a person, I should say, I guess, a person who I had passed and was like, wow, she's kind of hot. 5 minutes later, we passed each other again. And she was like, hey, I just wanted to stop you and say, you're so beautiful. I mean, made my entire week. Just a shocking turn of events. 2 hot people meeting at Joann Fabrics. That was such a delightful experience. I really appreciate that. And then the third win was that I was just invited to speak at a summit. And that is a big deal to me, specifically because normally I'm applying or I'm pitching myself to speak. And so it is such an honor and so validating to have someone to just like open my email inbox and someone said, hey, I saw your work in this other thing and I want you to speak specifically. That was definitely one of my favorite wins of this month. To get back to the surprising thing, I was just surprised that even though I was not doing the process exactly the way that I had intended, I still got the results I was looking for, which I suppose was the point of this entire series. What did I learn and feel throughout this experiment? I don't know that I learned anything new as much as I was reminded that iteration is part of experimentation. It just happens, you know? How did I feel? I think honestly throughout this month, I just kept being like, why am I not doing this? I was mostly trying to figure out why I wasn't doing it and trying to move around different factors. And then I just came to a place of acceptance. One thing that I did notice though, is most of my wins require other people and or leaving the house. I think there's something there to chew on. I don't know it just yet, but I am very intrigued at this concept of like, is it only possible to win when I am in an external environment or when there are external factors at play? I don't know. And then what am I bringing forward? Speed. I felt like I would ask for something or I'd be like, oh, I want X. And then within a few days, it would appear. So I like speed. I think I've always been afraid, a little nervous about counting on speed or orienting towards speed when I want something or when I'm trying to build something meaningful. But this experiment, as well as last month's frequency experiment, really brought speed into the forefront of my life. And I like it. I really enjoy it, and I might play with it more energetically. In terms of what I'm bringing forward, I think I'm going to play more with speed and see what changes when I decide to orient towards it instead of pretend that it's not there. Next month's experiment is to share a channeled message every day. I've been having fun creating the process around that. And if you want to see my process document as well as register for the kind of monthly meetup, you can join the Energy Squad, which will be linked in the description below. Thanks for watching. So if you liked this video, I think you'll really enjoy my deep dive on iteration, how to iterate with compassion, and how to find the factors in your plan or your process that might need to be changed in order for the rest to fall into place. Okay, see you later.